Welcome to a Hero's Welcome podcast, where stories, healing, and culture meet. Every episode, we invite you to listen, reflect, and be curious.
This podcast is a space for mental health therapists where we talk about the real work of healing.
Whether you're a mental health professional, a proud geek, or somewhere in between, you're in the right place.
So let's jump in.
To another episode of a Hero's Welcome podcast. I'm Maria, and I'm here with my co-host.
That's me, Liliana, and we're here with I was gonna say a comeback. Is it a comeback? I think you can come back anytime.
Don't call it a comeback.
Don't call it a comeback. How do you want to reintroduce yourself to our listeners?
Oh my gosh, that's like all of a sudden I was like flooded with what do I say?
I'm fabulous.
I don't know if I would say that, but I'll take it. Well, we've talked about anger, we've talked about supervision. I do art, play, all the things, love all of it. So we're here to talk more. We're here to talk more and bring more to the table.
So we're here with Dr. Dana Weiss. Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. Yeah, so we were chatting as we do before we hit record, and we have not learned our lesson to not just hit record as soon as Dana shows up. It might have had to have been a little bit censored, but that's all right. We were chatting about where things are in the world right now, where things are in a mental health field. So where did we land? Where do we want to keep this conversation going and involve the rest of our listeners?
So I think we were talking about how do we as mental health therapists, either working with kids, adults, it doesn't matter. We have to often keep adjusting to what they need, not what we have in the agenda, but what is it that they need from us, that pivoting that we have to do often. And you were giving us examples on these beautiful cases that you've been working with, and how we're mindful of ethics and boundaries and still honoring the client.
So we can start with the one we were just talking about,
Yeah.
the censored version, of course. There was some colorful language used when we described it first, but
because humor is healing.
Humor is healing. So the balance for me is always thinking about like, what are my needs and what do I have that I need? Like, where are my boundaries that I'm going to set for myself? It's not my job. Like, it's not my client's job to like meet my boundaries. It's my job to set those. And then how can I meet them where they're at? And this particular client, is someone that I've worked with for, it must be 2 or 3 years now. They have lots of trauma history. They openly discuss their poor boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
So we're very open about boundary work in that way.
Mm-hmm.
Because, and I'll give you some examples, some interesting examples of how that showed up in this space. But there's always a balance for me too of setting too strong a boundary with her and allowing some of that fluidity and that flow, because that is her trauma history. That is her inability to set boundaries, not her desire to walk over people's boundaries. So that balance of holding that space and talking about it, but then also, and I'll give some examples of how that happened. And she is also in a relationship that involves domestic violence right now, but has no desire to leave. They're both older in their life. They have a lot of money tied up together, a lot of assets. They have homes in multiple places. So for her, divorce right now is not an option because there's just too much intertwined, and their age. And so we work with her where she's at in that way. I have a supervisor that I work with. My boss at my full-time job outside of my private practice specializes in some of this work. So she's my go-to, and my client knows I talk to this person about the case to make sure I'm checking all the boxes, doing all the safety stuff I need to do, with her wanting to stay in this relationship. That's her choice. That is their life. And so I'm just making sure I'm doing all the things I can to keep them safe, both of them. And that's what we talk about. How do I keep both of you safe? Because you're choosing to stay in this, so we have to figure out what that means.
Yeah.
And she's in Costa Rica some of the time. She wanted me to still see her in Costa Rica. I looked heavily into that option, and it is not an option for a couple of reasons. One, my insurance and kind of licensure protection doesn't cover me in Costa Rica. And two, to honor Costa Rica's requirements, because in order to practice in Costa Rica, you have to live there for, I think it was about 2 years, and you have to take your test in Spanish. So the goal is really to make sure, because there's so many expats that go to Costa Rica, my understanding from my research is that the goal is to keep the work there for people who are there and make sure that they have jobs outside of people beyond.
Yeah.
So we've talked about that a lot. And she was like, well, why won't you just do it anyway? And I was like, well, let me tell you. One reason is you and your husband have talked about really harming each other. You're in another country. Your families could sue me. One of you could sue me. I was like, I have no protection. She's like, but you see me here. And I was like, I'm protected here. I'm licensed here. It's safe for me to see you here. And she's like, oh, and I was like, and it's not safe for me when this is actively happening. Although I am torn because I also think leaving you alone is not a good option, but I don't have a choice because of all of these things.
Yeah.
And so we've talked about what she does in Costa Rica, which I think that's what I was sharing is she tried to go see some other therapists in Costa Rica and decided they were not me, so she didn't like them. But we have a lot of other things she does. She has a lot of other healing practices. She's really into her religion and her practice there. And so she has a lot of stuff that we put in place before she goes. We also see each other more often when she's back, which is not something I do with everybody, but we'll have 2 to 3 sessions a week while she's here in the States to kind of do work and prepare for the times in between.
Yeah. I love that. And that's not a lot of, I mean, what you're doing is meeting her where she's at, holding those really strong boundaries for protection for yourself, but also your clients, and being flexible where I still see a lot of practitioners and clinicians struggle with, no, this is how it's done. If you're not here full time, I can't see you at all. Or no, I'm not going to not see you for 4 months and then see you 3 times a week for 2 months, right? I love that you like truly are meeting your clients where they're at and doing the work in the safety and the boundaries that you need to continue to have a practice.
And I do believe I'm able to do that with this person for a few factors. Like she respects those boundaries. When I call her on boundary pushes or boundary issues, she's like, oh, yeah, right? Like she's able to respond to that. Like there are things that happen, and a lot of the things that would be considered boundary pushes that she does are really just kind of not realizing that that's not okay, versus someone I would set different boundaries for someone that is pushing boundaries, that is, really taking advantage. Like I would do that a bit differently. And I may not be able to do this with other people. It works with her and me. Another thing that is different about me than other people is I speak a lot. I travel a lot. I have a full-time job outside of my private practice. So I'm very flexible with time and space. If you show up 30 minutes into your session happening, you still get the rest of your time. Like I don't cut it off at 10, 15 minutes. Now, if you show up 10 minutes before your time's over, we really don't have any time to do anything. But if you're running late, you get as much time as you get. You're getting charged for the whole hour still, but you get as much time. And if you call me, and I have a lot of parents that have a lot of family stuff going on with other children in therapy, with medical stuff going on, other mental health stuff. And so when a parent's calling me in a panic saying they forgot the session, I give them several options. Like your option is here's my times open the rest of this week. Or you can pay and we'll schedule for next week as normal. But I always try and reschedule if I can. And the reason for that is because I often am like, oh, next week, by the way, I'm not going to be here. I need to so I need people to be flexible with me and things to shift, because I will see some clients like earlier in the day, and then sometimes I get pulled for work stuff. So I need to shift. So I allow that because I need that too, to a reason. If they're like, hey, do you work on Saturdays? No, I don't. Right. I think the only time I work on the weekends is if I know I'm gone a lot that month traveling for stuff. And then sometimes I'll do a Saturday or Sunday to make up, so my clients don't have too much in between. But I feel like for me and my practice, that's important that I give them that grace because I need it as well. And And I don't know that I could work with that really structured. What I hear people say, like, if you're not here on time, I was like, my own therapist, I'm late sometimes because I'm rushing to get where I need to be. So, like, if they were like, too bad you're 10 minutes late, I would be like, I need another therapist. Like, I'm always going to be running late, probably. Like, this is my life.
Yeah.
What I think it's our life more and more these days, right?
Yeah.
Everyone is overwhelmed. We're all juggling way too much and doing the best we can, but we're gonna fall short more
Yeah.
often than not.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
love that you have that grace, but you're also like, it's because I'm asking for it too.
Mm-hmm.
And there's definitely people I've had conversations with. I'm like, hey, every time you're not making your session, like, do we need to figure out another day for this? Like, do we need to take a pause? Like, because then that's a conversation. I don't see it as that's a problem with them. I see it as like, where's the problem with our time? Where's the problem with, is therapy just, is it not fitting in? And I don't see that as a negative thing against
Mm-hmm.
therapy.
Yeah.
What I see with a lot of the families, and I have also a benefit of in our practice, my colleague sees a lot of the parents and I see the kids, or vice versa. I end up getting most of the kids, let's be honest. I do the art and play. So everyone like, but I do see some of the adults too. But she'll often have parents that want their kids to go to therapy and she's full. So I end up absorbing. And so I do have the added benefit of sometimes knowing a little bit about the family more than I might
Mm-hmm.
about why this could be happening
Mm-hmm.
and like what's going on with the parents where they're not being irresponsible. They're not, but they're like barely holding on by a thread.
Yeah.
And so for me to come in really harsh, like get your child here also, and I do think that I have that benefit where we have enough communication and everyone knows we kind of have that ROI where everyone knows we're going to communicate with each other when we're working on cases together, that I have a bit more information so that I can have a little more of that grace and understanding and not take it personal because it's not, it's sometimes it is about therapy.
Yeah.
And sometimes there's parents that are like, I don't understand what this play is. Like, why are you just doing slime with my kid all day long? It's like, would you like to come and join us and find out? Um, but for the most part, I think it's that, like, it's just really hard right now.
But is that right? Like as you were talking, I was like, oh, so we're not naming, or for new cohorts of therapists, what is not being named is that in our field, we have a fantasy of what a therapy session should look like. And then, therefore, because of that fantasy, we go to this rigidity being imposed by the systems that we work in regards to this is what this session, if it's 30 minutes, an hour, whatever it is, will look like. And this is what you have to produce.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Because when I train, I talk about the client that I sat for 30 minutes with in silence. And
Yeah.
everyone's like, what? And even when I was doing it, the colleague next to me was like, why do you let this person come in and waste your time? And I was like, what are you talking about? And they're like, if they're not going to talk and do the work. And I was like, they're doing the work. And she
Yeah.
was, what do you mean? And I said, they used to only be doing 10 minutes staring at me like that. Like now we're doing 30. That's amazing. And she was like, what? And I was like, and they're paying for my time. This is not my time. Like, I'm not wasting 30 minutes. This 30 minutes is theirs.
Yeah.
Like, in my mind, and this might be from my inpatient background, working in psychiatric hospitals where there is very little
Mhm.
ability for them to have anything. And like,
Sure.
I was required to see them twice a week for 30 minutes. Like, if
Mhm.
you want to stare at me for your 20 minutes, now, how do we rate that up? I
Yeah.
think that is the next piece. Like,
Yeah.
I worked at that time, I was still an intern when the first time it happened. Happened many times since then, including in private practice. But, I worked with my supervisor, like, this is therapy. This is how I know it's therapy. And so I really learned to write to what was happening, whether there was words or not in the space. And I think that also goes from the art therapy background.
Mhm.
So my guess is therapists who are really restricted to, like, we have Department of Mental Health paperwork or DCFS,
Mhm.
like whatever probation, whatever paperwork or whatever
Mhm.
entities are requiring you to write Medi-Cal. How do you put that in a way where they can understand it And that's just a conversation with a supervisor or consultant or taking a few classes. I know who is one, Anne Meehan has some great information about documentation and like how you can do it in 5 minutes too. I don't know if I believe her, even though she is my play therapy supervisor, but um, she, teaches that. And it's like, how do I rate this 30 minutes? Like, how is this therapeutic? And I think that by diving into that with someone, you also enhance those clinical skills.
Yeah.
Because you're right. Like people would say, this is what it's supposed to look like. And I'm like, okay, well, they're not talking. So we're just staring. Okay, staring. Got it. Do I stare at you or do I stare away? Stare at you. Okay. And we're just staring for 30 minutes, but they stayed.
Yeah.
And they were in the space and they were showing up. And this is a person who didn't want to be in therapy, who is locked up away from their family, who is being told they have a mental illness and possibly other things, who is at risk of being put in jail. Well, of course, they are not sure if they want to tell me anything because anything they tell me actually does go to their probation officers and all the way in that setting. So, like, of course, you want to be careful.
Yeah.
There is a treatment team that decides whether you stay in placement or go home. Like all of the information you tell me is not as kind of confidential or private in
Mhm.
the way that it might be in private practice. So, like, of course, it's going to be hard for you to talk to me.
Yes.
And why would you trust me? I'm also some little 20-something-year-old white girl who doesn't understand gang life at all. And you're in trouble for being gang affiliated. So, of course, you're looking at me like, can I figure you out?
Yeah.
Right.
Are you safe? Is
Yeah.
this an okay place for me to be? Of course, that's going to take time.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Beautiful, right? Which would go into the brain and the nervous system for most of these clients thinking of, let me see, I'm paying you for a session so that you can help me make sense of my journey. But in that journey, you have an idea of what you think I need, not taking into consideration my nervous system, my history. You're focusing on your structure, your systems, telling me what model you're going to apply to me, not asking if that's the right model for me. You're telling me how long, how often I have to come with you, not taking into account what I need from you. Is that something that we all acquire in our master's program, in associations, in terms like, I don't know, probably all of the above. But the conversation that we started was how do we meet our clients and we are ethical, which you just described how ethical we can be. How do we honor boundaries? They're there for a reason for them and for us. But the invitation is how can we be flexible, not be married into a model that I have to follow or a structure that I have to follow.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
When you talk about that, it reminds me of like my journey and being like a manager. And there's a book called The 1 Minute Manager.
Oh, yes.
And when I read it, it's such a simple book to read
Yeah.
and it was life-changing for me. And everyone I employed after that, like had to read that book, whether they were a supervisor or not.
Yeah.
Like whether they managed people or not, I made them read 1 Minute Manager because what it did for me clinically was something I thought I was already doing, but I didn't have words for, is that when the 1 Minute Manager is like, you will have your management style,
Mhm.
but all of your employees have their learning style or their need for their manager. And as the manager, it is your responsibility to match theirs, not
Yeah.
their responsibility to match yours all the time. But that is a very hierarchy that not all managers will agree
Yeah.
with this. But
Yes.
this is what this book says. And so we had a job coach program where I worked because we were an
Mhm.
inpatient. There was a lot of crises. I think we all, if you've ever been an inpatient before, the people making the least are the ones on the floor working with the kids and also usually have the least education in the sense of not even just schooling, but just like the least amount of training
Mhm.
because they're the ones who can't get off the floor to get the trainings.
Yeah.
Right.
And so we employed because our company was really trying to like bridge that gap. We employed a job coach. And so the job coach's job was to assist all the managers in going in and coaching people to build their skills.
Nice.
And this book just really, I had read it before, but then when we started this program, it's when I was in
Mhm.
charge of the job coaching program. And when I read it and we talked about it and we looked at our employees, it just changed everything for us because then
Uh-huh.
even if someone wasn't a right fit, we talked about why. Like we talked about what is your career goals? Like, and if someone said, well, I want to be a personal trainer and work with adults, we're like, why are you working with angry adolescents who are trying to hate you? Like, how do we help you get to that goal? Or how does this job help you with that goal so
There
you're
you
the
go.
happiest person here
Mhm.
versus the person who's calling off all the time? So it's that same concept,
Yeah.
which I think now I apply to my families and my
Mhm.
private practice is like, where are you?
Yeah.
What part of me do you need? Because I'm still being true to myself.
Mhm.
Right? Like if I do like with this one person where I see her a couple extra times a week, like we do set limits. Like she
Mhm.
did joke about seeing me every single day. And I was like, that's absolutely not going to happen. She's like, you're serious, aren't you? And I was like, yes. And I know you are too. Like I know you would see me every day. I was like, but that's not what therapy is about. And
Mhm.
then I educate her on why.
Mhm.
Why can I not see you every day? You know, she jokes about like we would probably be great friends. And I was like, we may or may not be, but this is what I need to be in your life right now. You need someone
Yeah.
like me that can help you with this stuff. And me being your friend, you wouldn't be able to have this.
Mhm.
She's like, you're right. So, like, I do sometimes have to set boundaries and pull us back a little bit. This
Yeah.
is the one we started with.
Mhm.
And I think what I was sharing at the beginning too is she is back. She had been gone for a while. She was supposed to come back into my office to see me for her first time back. And then her husband is now in the hospital. It was very sudden, it was very quick. And so she can't see me. I don't normally do phone calls while people are driving, although I will admit that this is a person that this has happened to more than I would like to. We continue to talk about it, but this time I approved it. There's a lot of like safety risks and
Yeah.
ethics around them driving or being in public spaces. She doesn't understand that all the time. We continue to have conversations about that, but there's certain circumstances where it doesn't feel right to cut off the call.
Exactly.
And because of her boundary issues, but also some of her rejection and things that and abandonment that have happened in her life, I try and balance it a little bit. So we were supposed to have a meeting. She was rushing to the hospital. She thought he was okay and stable. Something happened. She's like, but I need to talk to you. We hadn't been able to talk yet. I was like, you know what? Get on the phone. As long as you're safe and you promise me you'll stay safe while you're driving, we're going to have a call. You
Mhm.
know, and we talked while she was getting to the hospital. That's where the colorful language came in. She is not one that she uses a lot of colorful words, which is part of probably why she likes therapy with me because I'm fine with that. And sometimes I'll give her some as well because it makes her happy. And we were talking about as she was going in, like, I'm traveling a lot. We're having trouble being able to see each other. So I was like, we can do check ins. Like, I
Mhm.
usually don't let people text a lot of stuff, but she's texting a little more
Mhm.
just to keep me updated on how everything is. She knows the rules about that. Like, it's not,
Mhm.
I was like, it's not confidential. Like, anyone could see my text. They could, so just know all this stuff. If I won't text anything to you, but if you're giving me stuff to give me information, like, just if it gets a little too personal, I say, okay, remember not to text.
Yeah.
We know maybe we need a call. Can you get out? But I started creating this coloring book for her called Snarky Coloring Pictures because she's just in such a bad place, but her humor is still intact. And one of the things that I have a lot of sarcasm in my bones, and one of the things some of my all my clients, but mainly my adult clients like is that sarcasm. And so I'm creating like coloring books for most of my clients. I started it with clients actually because they're like, these affirmations are stupid. So like our affirmations are like, oh my gosh, let me pull one up and read it to you. It's so funny. Someone wrote one. But so now like we're doing this. So as she was talking, I was like, oh, I'm gonna get some of these coloring pages. I'm gonna either email it to her or drop it off to her at the hospital. So she has something to do too. Um, because that's a lot. That's a
Yeah.
lot for her to hold.
Well,
Yeah.
even the sarcasm and the coloring pages, right? Like those are still examples of you meeting your clients where they're at,
Yes.
right? We do. We go to school, we need that foundation as newbies. It's nice to have a structure to follow. Absolutely. But the truth is, we're in a helping profession, helping messy people with messy lives.
Yes.
And if we are too rigid, we cannot be helpful.
Mhm.
We can
And
actually be more of a burden and a hindrance and a stressor.
Yeah.
I think you said something very important. There's a reason that in school we need to know where the lines are
Yeah.
Mhm.
because then that helps me know, like, no, like you cannot walk me around
Yeah.
Mhm.
your job place introducing me to everybody. Like next time I'm going to hang up on you, we need to be in your car. Like, you have to be in a private place if we're meeting at work. Like, that's the
Yeah.
boundary. Like, this is
Yeah.
not what we do in therapy. And I know it's also coming from a place of she is so proud of me and the work we do together that she wants everyone to know
Yeah.
me. And I'm like, that's fair. And that's not what therapy's for.
Yeah.
Like, that's not, this space is private. This is ours. And I am
Mhm.
so grateful that you want to bring people into the space, but we have to really like keep this
Mhm.
private.
Mhm.
Right. And I talk about the difference between privacy and secrecy.
Yeah.
And I do that a lot with kids. Like, secrecy is holding secrets from other people. Privacy is keeping things private and choosing who you tell.
Yeah.
Those are very different things. So I found
Mhm.
one of those. This
Okay.
is one of our favorites.
Let's do it.
I'm not saying I hate you. What I am saying is that you are literally the Monday of my life.
I'm gonna carry that in a card.
Oh, I have a beautiful picture with flowers for you. I'll send you my Snarky Coloring Pages. You saw some of them, Maria, because
I did.
I had them in the anger one, but this one, which I will share with you, is not for everyone. There's some certain ones that won't be shown to anyone else. It's just for this particular client. There's some words that I would not give to all people. I do try not to have cursing or anything in these if I'm giving them out for clients, but if I have a client that has some specific words they love a lot, then I'll add in their version a couple fun ones that either we create together or they create on their own.
I love
Yeah.
that.
But it's helpful, right? Because as you two were talking about, this is still the client's time. And I was like, and how beautiful from an attachment lens that you created this piece and she still can be attached to you working on something as she's encountering all these stressors. So, like, can we also see the benefit of it from not only the therapeutic work that we're doing from an attachment lens, from a crisis lens, like it's all these things that are being, and all of that does not sound or look like the traditional we bought into what therapy should be like.
Right. Yeah. Well, and we don't have another 3 hours to go on, but the other thing too is like, yes, we get these structures, and I think I've talked about this in a couple of episodes, maybe, so bear with me. These theories that we are prescribing to were created in a time that no longer exists.
Yes.
They're not completely applicable the way that they were when they were originated. And if we don't keep up with where our clients are, where the society is, what tools are now available to us, we're missing out and we're doing a disservice to our clients.
I agree.
I think that's so important and so beautiful. And I teach the trauma course at LMU. And one of the things we always talk about is honoring what came before us and honoring the time they were in and why that made sense.
Yeah.
Because I also think, equally to what you're saying, people not being able to shift, people also decide to get rid of things.
Yeah, no.
And it's like, no,
No.
like, honor what came before us, and that in the time and space that existed,
Mhm.
that was important. Like, I think of Kubler-Ross because this is the one in like a lot of the book we just wrote, Hope in the Winds of Grief. We were talking about the grief models and what to
Mhm.
add. Kubler-Ross, one, is very misunderstood. Two, at the time,
Yeah.
she was the only one writing about this. Like, she did a breakthrough thing, which is really important to honor. And we have learned so much since she did that,
Mhm.
that all of that doesn't fully apply in the way she found what she
Mhm.
found.
Mhm.
Right. And also, she didn't find grief and loss stuff. She was really looking at a person anticipating their own loss.
Right.
And it got translated and translated. And then it kind of, she even, I think, at some point said, like, it's a train that ran away and I don't even know how to stop it if I wanted to anymore. I don't know if those were her exact words, but it was something like that. Like, it's a ball that was rolling. It was just like, it kind of got bigger than her.
Mhm.
And even if she wanted to pull it back and she wanted to shift it, like, she couldn't, because people need things to hold on to. And
Mhm.
at that time, that was all they had.
Mhm.
And now we've learned so much in the grief and loss world. We've learned so much about how different people grieve and different cultures grieve, and not one model fits for anyone.
Mhm.
And I think that's a beautiful example of, don't get rid of her
No.
work and what she did. Like, we shouldn't not talk about it. We should absolutely talk about it and why it fit in that time
Mhm.
and why it doesn't now. Like,
Yeah.
why we've had to shift and move. And it may fit for someone. That
Right.
may be those kind of stages of grief may be something someone needs to get through the day.
Mhm.
I am not going to deny them that as their therapist. Okay, well, let's look at that.
Mhm.
What does that mean for you?
Yeah.
What does this model mean for you? Because you may be interpreting it in a way that does make sense for you and works, but wouldn't for these other 12 people.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I love that you remind us of that, right? That's funny. I was talking to someone who's a historian this past week, and we were talking about politics and history. And he reminded me so many good points, which I was like, oh my God, I forgot about that. And as you're saying this is, please, for all of you who are out there, we're not dismissing, and please do not dismiss any theory because it is absolutely right. Like when I think about in that point of time, when they created this, it served that purpose with what I know now and the nervous system and the brain and different cultures. What are the adaptations that we have to make?
Yep.
Knowing that what I know now may not work 6 months or a year or 5 years from now, and we will have to adapt again. So
Absolutely.
the idea is, how can we be flexible? How can
Yes.
the point of today is, can you be flexible, and what would that look like for you within your practice? Right? Can
Right.
you
And
be?
within your boundaries. So you're not pulling too much from yourself, right?
There you
Like,
go.
what makes sense for me? I'm very good at working from 8 in the morning to 9 or 10 at night on the weekdays. My non-negotiable is the weekends. That's
Yeah.
for me. Like, but I don't tell my clients, I don't say you, I just say these are the times I'm available.
Mm-hmm.
This is my non-negotiable for myself. I know whenever I add too much stuff on my weekend, I start to get stressed out. And that's no one else's fault because, and this has been a lot of work, by the way. This is
Yeah.
not something I learned yesterday. I worked in inpatient for way too long where people pulled on all of my time. But now that I have more availability for my schedule and I can set it, now when I was in inpatient and working there, my non-negotiables had to be different
Yeah.
because my schedule was different. And I have a little bit of ability to work where I want now, where then I was at a building and I had to be there. And so I think that's another part. Our boundaries and non-negotiables shift
Mm-hmm.
as our family shift, as our
Yeah.
responsibilities shift, as our jobs shift. And what does that mean? And what worked for me here
Mm-hmm.
may not work for me there. And when I
Yeah.
was an inpatient, I had to see you twice a week for 30 minutes. That was
Mm-hmm.
regulated.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what that 30 minutes looked like, or if I did maybe 45 minutes one part and like a quick 30-minute check-in while you're in the door, like that was something I could play with within my ethics. But like now it's like once a week. Okay, but what if someone needs twice a week? Or we say an hour, but what if like someone can only handle 30 minutes? Like,
Mm-hmm.
well, then I'm going to have a conversation with you about how billing looks because if you're choosing not to spend your whole 50 minutes and that's what you're doing, like we can talk about that. But some people, even adults, can't handle the full 50 minutes and some people want an hour and a half.
Yeah.
That could be possible, but we're going to have to talk about what payment looks like for an hour and a half because that's separate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Look at this beautiful conversation as we started not recording, having a blast with our conversations as we tend to do. But the invitation today was, flexibility. Can you allow yourself to be flexible while honoring clients and your boundaries and then following ethics so that we do not lose what we work so hard for? So, this idea as we become global and clients are traveling, because since COVID, we became more global than ever. Yeah, no, you cannot practice in every single country, do your research. You cannot say I'm a therapist in the US and I'm a coach everywhere else. No, that does not work like that either. I love you. I love that for you and your creativity, and stop it. Um, and it may be they use, just look at each other, or it may be that we create coloring pages for our clients. It may be from an attachment perspective, we are working with them for what they need, not what we want, or being loyal to a system. This was such a beautiful, insightful conversation that is needed, and we need to have more and more often.
Oh,
Yeah,
I would
no.
be absolutely happy to talk to either one of you all day, every day. Although we all talked about we can't do that. So pockets of the day, all day, every day.
Oh, and I appreciate it. I appreciate it. I feel like we're just kind of giving listeners permission
Mm-hmm.
to find the flexibility. I have this image of like, well, you have a palm tree in your background, Dana, of like these roots, right? These are our ethics, these are our boundaries, these deep, deep roots but then the flexibility that when the wind comes, we can shift a little bit with that, and we can move with our clients while being grounded in ethics and in good practice, while honoring the foundations that we were taught and where we've been, but also being, taking a step forward and like, where are you and how do I best meet you where you're at?
And my last thing would be, how do we do that is supervision and consultation.
Yes.
Even as a licensed practitioner for many years on these cases where I am shifting, like this case in particular, I think I said at the beginning, I am consulting and I am supervising all the time to make sure I am not pushing my own boundaries or forgetting things. Or I think that's what I would say too, is that you don't have to do it alone and have those people that can do that checks and balances for you. Check your biases, but then also check your boundaries and like, are you pushing too much or being too rigid? Like that's someone you trust for that is really important.
Beautiful. And go to a training where they teach you how to translate all of this into notes. Because we need creativity. Most of us who are play therapists, it's easier for us to be very creative in translating this, but not everyone has that. And I get it. Sorry, you're not a registered play therapist. You can still take those trainings. Or if you're a play therapist, there was a whole discussion earlier about, do you have to be a registered play therapist to work with kids, or can you just be trained in play therapy? That's the whole discussion that it keeps showing up every year. So just go get trainings, get supervision consultation. That is the best way for us to make sure that we stay within our ethics.
I agree. Training is training. Do the training.
Do it. Just do it. Sign up for it. Do it.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for being here. We're so lucky. Please come back. We always have a blast when we're having these discussions with you.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for having me.
Till next time.
Thank you for joining us on a Heroes Welcome podcast. We hope you found inspiration, insight, and maybe, just maybe, a little fun along the way.
Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with your fellow healers. Until next time, stay curious, stay playful,